Today, we're diving into the childhood of one of the world's most beloved leaders. But here's the twist. This isn't about big, flashy achievements. It's about the small, quiet moments that hold some of the most powerful lessons on how to live a truly meaningful life, all from his book, My Journey.
I want you to really think about this for a second. We spend so much of our lives chasing success, right? But what if our biggest strengths, our resilience, our ability to connect with people, what if all of that actually comes from the tough times? That's the exact idea we're going to unpack today.
So our guide on this is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's book, My Journey. But listen, forget everything you think you know about presidential biographies. This is not some stuffy historical document. It's all about these small, almost overlooked moments from his childhood on a little island, moments that honestly hold some incredibly deep lessons for all of us.
So where does a journey like this really start? For Dr. Kalam, it wasn't in some fancy school or with a silver spoon. It all began right at home. And the first, maybe the most important lesson he ever learned was all about humility.
You see, Kalam's father was a humble boat owner. He didn't have much formal education, and by most of today's standards, he wasn't what you'd call successful. And yet, he was the spiritual heart of their community. He was the person everyone, and I mean everyone, went to for advice. This taught Kalam something huge right from the start. True wealth, true respect. It doesn't come from your bank account or your degree. It comes from your character.
Now, this piece of advice from his father, wow. It basically became the compass for his entire life. Think about it. He was taught that when things get tough, your first move shouldn't be to lash out or look for someone to blame. Nope. The first move is to look inward, to figure out what's really going on and find the strength inside yourself to handle it. That one idea was his anchor for everything that came later.
And from his mother, he learned another lesson, just as powerful. It was during World War II, and food was really scarce. One night, his mom is serving him chapatis, and like any hungry kid, he just keeps eating. She keeps putting them on his plate, one after another, not saying a word. It was only later that his older brother told him the truth. Their mother had given him her entire portion of the food. In that one heartbreaking moment, he got it. Real love isn't about what you have, it's about what you're willing to give.
Okay, so these are amazing lessons, right? But they weren't just nice ideas talked about at the dinner table. Oh no, they were about to be put to the ultimate test, because he was about to be forged by the storm.
Just try to imagine this. You're a little kid, it's the middle of the night, and a cyclone is just screaming outside. The next morning, you wake up, and everything is destroyed. And then you get the worst news. The family's boat. The one thing that put food on the table, the very boat you watched your dad build with his own two hands, it's gone, washed away. In an instant, their entire livelihood was just gone. But what his dad did next, or rather what he didn't do, is what really matters. There was no crying, no blaming God, no despair. He just watched his father face this total disaster with this incredible, quiet dignity, and the lesson was burned into his memory forever. Life is going to hit you with storms you can't control. The only thing you can control is how you respond. You can let it crush you, or you can choose to rebuild.
And rebuild is exactly what they did. Kalam himself, at just 8 years old, got his first job. Because of the war, the trains didn't stop at their station anymore, so they just throw these big bundles of newspapers out of the moving train car. And his job? To run along the tracks, grab the bundles, and deliver them. This was way more than just a job. It was his first real taste of responsibility, of knowing that hard work is always the first step to building anything back up. But here's the thing. Nobody, and I mean nobody, rebuilds alone. Kalam's journey is the perfect example of that old saying, that we all stand on the shoulders of giants.
This part of his story is just incredible. In his town, his father, who was the local imam, was best friends with the high priest of the Hindu temple and the priest of the local church. Seriously. So when a new teacher at school tried to make Kalam sit separately from his Hindu friend, these three men went to the school together. They calmly explained to that teacher that what he was doing was wrong. For young Kalam, that was a lesson he never forgot. Unity isn't something that just happens. It's something you have to actively build and fight for.
So who were these giants in his life? Well, you had mentors who opened his eyes to science. You had community leaders who showed him what unity looked like. And then you had his sister, Zohra. When Kalam got into a top engineering school but had no way to pay for it, she didn't even blink. She mortgaged her own gold jewelry, pretty much the only valuable thing she owned, to fund his education. It really does take a village.
Okay, so we've heard these incredible stories, but what's the point? What does all this have to do with you and me, right now? Well, everything. This is the part where the lessons from his past become a roadmap for our future, because your journey starts right now.
You probably heard this quote, but let's really think about what it means. He's saying a dream isn't some passive fantasy you have at night. No, a real dream is a purpose. It's an idea that's so big, so important to you, that it literally keeps you up at night, not with worry, but with excitement and a sense of mission. It's what turns I wish into I will.
All right, so if we boil this whole amazing journey down, what are the 3 big takeaways? First, that your real worth is in your character, not your wallet. Second, every setback is actually a chance to find out how strong you really are. And finally, and maybe this is the most important one, our lives are built by the people who believe in us. So hang on to those people. And just as important, try to be that person for someone else.
So that leaves us with one final question. Dr. Kalam's life proves that greatness isn't something you're born with. It's something you forge, day by day, through humility, through resilience, and with the help of others. He turned his dreams into actions that lifted up an entire nation. So the only real question left is, what dream will you transform into action?